And in 1963, if you look at it, first spacecraft was launched into geostationary orbit. That is called SIMCOM-1. And later it was called Intelsat-1. Okay. And that was renamed as the Intelsat-1, a consortium formed by worldwide people to have the communication spacecrafts for across the world. So we are also a partner in that. And in 1975, we have made our footprint in the space era with the launch of Aryabhatta. In 1975, we launched our own satellite. And in 1981, the first indigenous experimental communication spacecraft was launched by us, by India. That was Apple. That is an Ariane passenger payload experiment. This is where I joined in ISRO after completing my degree in engineering. So I started with the communication spacecraft only, my journey, and I continue to be working in that field, and then I retired from there. And even now I am having association with that. In fact, even today, even now, I used to go to the office for some reviews and then advanced satellite missions and all. I'm still having in touch with the programs. Okay, people may be wondering, what is the advantage of having the spacecraft? Okay, so the advantage of the spacecraft communications are, okay, you can, when compared to the terrestrial communications, okay, the coverage area of the spacecraft greatly exceeds that of a terrestrial system. Okay, I can ask you one small, see, when you stand on the floor of your house, your field of view will be limited. If you are having a house which you are living in a community of having multi-storied building, if you go to the roof, then your field of view extends further. It is mainly because you can see a larger area. Similarly, the same approach, if we can keep translating as you go higher and higher, you can have your field of view, rather your coverage area will be keep increasing. That is the advantage what we can have. That is in, okay, maybe before when we shifted to the communications to the spacecrafts, I think if you remember that mobile phones, that is in what I can say in the 90s, if you really call for, when you travel, you will get that the towers is switched over from one place to other. That is what you will be seeing in the mobile. I think you people would not have been having that kind of experience, but we had that kind of an experience. When I traveled through from Bangalore to Chennai, I used to get something like 10 to 15 hops. That means in between there will be no signal, and again the signal will be picked up from the next immediate tower available. So with the towers, transmission towers, the area covered is very much limited, whereas with the spacecraft, that kind of a constraint is not there. That is how I put that. The coverage area of a spacecraft greatly exceeds that of a terrestrial system. I will give you with some figure, and then that will make you clearly understand how, as you go higher and higher, your field of view is getting increased, you can see. Next is transmission cost from the spacecraft is independent of the distance from the center of the coverage area. That is, if I want to transmit a message from Bangalore to Delhi, let us assume, want to communicate. If I want to have a terrestrial communication, either I should have a fiber optics, which should be connected from Bangalore to Delhi, or I should have transmission towers. That transmission towers means it will be many in numbers, it will be coming. So the cost involved in establishing that is high, whereas a spacecraft means it is a single spacecraft with a single hop. okay, it can cover anywhere where I have the coverage area. That is why the coverage area is not part of the cost. Once you establish the spacecraft, the coverage is independent of it. Okay, then spacecraft to spacecraft communication becomes very precise. That means if I want to communicate from India to America, directly I cannot communicate through one spacecraft. So what they will do is, from one spacecraft, they will connect it to the other spacecraft from the other side, and then from there it will be downloaded and they will be connecting it. So in this period of time of transmission from spacecraft to spacecraft, there could be some noise which will be crept in, whereas in the spacecraft to spacecraft transmission, that is very, very minimal, and you can say that it is no loss is there. That is why we can say that spacecraft to spacecraft communication is very precise. And next big thing, advantage is in terrestrial, the bandwidth available is very limited. You can't use higher bandwidth. Whereas in the spacecrafts, higher bandwidths I can make use, because I can afford to have the kind of a technology. The same technology, it's not possible for me to have it in terrestrial communications. Okay. And if you look at the spacecraft services, the types of the services, we can classify into fixed services spacecraft called FCC. This is point-to-point communication. Mostly this will be used for business people. And then broadcast service. This is spacecraft television, radio network, and then all our television and then radio networks are all happening in this broadcast services mode. Then mobile satellite platforms. This is using that satellite phones. I think you all would have heard. And then for mobile phones also, to some extent, this MSS services are being used. Then the types of spacecrafts which is used are, okay, you can categorize it is in geostationary orbit, low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and some special type of orbits called the Molniya orbit, and then Thuraya orbit will be coming. Then high altitude platforms. These are all meant for some special purposes. Now you see here in this figure, if it is a lower satellite of something like 500 kilometers, the coverage area is something like this. Whereas if the coverage, if the satellite is around 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers, then the coverage area is increasing. Whereas in the geostationary satellite platform, we will be having the coverage of something like 70-degree longitude plus minus. That means something like 140 degree you can cover. That is the kind of coverage area you can have with the geostationary satellites. We will see a little bit one by one what is its features and then what are all the requirements. Okay. As I told you, geosynchronous orbit, it is that 36,000 kilometers above the Earth, where the mainly commercial and military communication satellites are going, and for all other military purposes and then missile launches, these satellites are being used. We will see a little bit more in detail in the coming slides. Then medium Earth orbit, it is mainly used for navigation purposes, like our GPS, Galileo and GLONASS and all those spacecrafts are there in this orbit. Then comes low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit, it is mainly meant for military intelligence, and then they will have reconnaissance satellites, and then this spying satellites are coming under this category. See this diagram, you see, you are seeing very clearly whatever in that red color, whatever I have given is 36,000 kilometers above the Earth, it is revolving. And in various planes, that is why you are getting this kind of orbits. This is that medium Earth orbits in the blue color. And this one is low Earth orbit, whatever you are seeing. This is how the satellites are being now put, and then it is used for communication purposes. And in each category, the function is a little bit different. We will see one by one what is it, each one, and what is its features, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages we are seeing. Little bit in detail we will see. Okay, if you take low Earth orbit means the satellites which are going around the Earth around 500 to 1500 kilometers. There is no sacrosanct rule that the low Earth orbit means it is 500 to 1500. There is no such thing. It's a broad classification, that is all. Okay, but the only problem here is the satellite is visible to the person who is on the Earth. Maximum he can get is only 20 minutes of visible time. That is 15 to 20 minutes only. That means if I want to have 24/7 coverage, then the number of satellites which I require is very many. That means it will be easily in triple digit. That is something like 100 to 110 satellites I need to have a 24/7 connectivity. Okay. That means network of the satellites are to be there for the communication purpose to have a continuous coverage. That is one big disadvantage. This is what I am, you are seeing in the diagram. With the Iridium satellite, that 66 satellites in the 6 different orbit planes, it is going around. And then it has been placed at 750 kilometer altitude. That is how, this is how. So, essentially, if you put it in a nutshell, with the low Earth spacecrafts, the contact time is limited. So to have a 24/7 communication, we need more number of satellites, and maintaining those satellites is a little bit okay. You have to be a little bit careful, and then the health of the satellites monitoring and keeping it in the orbit are all a little bit cumbersome. But yes, it is still possible. Still, many people are using it. Then comes medium Earth orbit. In medium Earth orbit, the satellite can go up to 20,000 kilometers, from 10,000 to 20,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. But the function is now similar to LEO, but the only advantage is the time available for you is increased from 15 minutes to 2 hours to 8 hours it can. So that is the kind of an advantage we have. That means the number of spacecraft you require will be come down considerably if you want to go to MEO. That is at medium Earth orbit. Okay. So one such situation is this GPS. For our GPS, whatever we are using, they are using 24 satellites. They are distributed in 6 orbital planes, and GLONASS, Russian, they are using in the same way. I think Chinese, they have their own, and then we have also our own satellite network called NAVIC. I will just give you a brief in the subsequent slides. And then comes high altitude platforms. See, when there is a big public congregation and gathering like a very big gathering, Kumbh Mela and all, when it is happening, the requirement of managing the crowd will be only for a short duration, maybe for a week or 10 days, or if there is a very big public gathering or some function, like, okay, in Tamil Nadu, Kumbakonam, that kind of a big crowds are being there. To manage the thing for communication purposes, what they do is they used to launch balloon. Through that balloon, the coverage area is very much restricted, but the cost of launching this and maintaining is very cheap. The only problem is its lifetime is very short. That is, the life of the high altitude platform balloons are only in terms of weeks. So that is why, unless otherwise, for a short-term goal to meet, these high altitude platforms are not being preferred. This is the one of the, oh yeah, I've summarized something like this. It is the newest idea of spacecraft communication. That is, it's a blimp. That means that is nothing but a balloon put under some 20 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and it is having only a small coverage, but it's comparatively, it gives a very good signal rather than using a spacecraft or some other mode of terrestrial communications. But the big advantage is it is cheaper, but thing is you have to have many number of such things, and then you can't have it for a longer duration. That is the main disadvantage. Okay. So then next big advantage what we are going to see, I'm just coming out. That is, whatever you are seeing in this figure, this gentleman is called Arthur C. Clarke. He was a British scientist, but he is basically a Sri Lankan, and then he spent his last days in Sri Lanka, and he is the godfather of the communication spacecrafts. That is how in the worldwide he has been known as a godfather of the communication spacecrafts. What he has come out is in 1945. He was basically a physicist. He evolved in a concept of that geostationary satellite. That means, what is that? No. See, actually, as you go higher and higher, the spacecraft orbiting time keep increasing, but at one particular altitude, the spacecraft is completing one revolution. Simultaneously, Earth also completes one revolution. That means, for an observer sitting on the Earth, the satellite will never move away. That is, there is no shift in the spacecraft position. That is the main advantage. That concept was given by this. So the title of father was given to him, but he didn't accept it. But he told he has given the concept only, but it was realized by John Peary and then Dr. Roshan. They have, after the pioneering practical demonstrations, and then they have come out with the spacecraft communications. You know, the first commercial geostationary communication was launched. Anyway, you have seen in the third slide that 1965 only we had our first commercial communication spacecraft. That means after 20 years of the concept introduction, the real usage has come. That means for realizing this idea, it took almost 20 years. Okay, that is how that hard work and other things brings the advances in the science, and then okay, with that the society is progressing further. Okay, here you are seeing a diagram with three such spacecrafts. That is what I am seeing when that satellite is revolving around 35,786 kilometers above the Earth. It rotates. Its speed is synchronized with the Earth rotation period. That means the observer sitting on the Earth, the spacecraft is almost stationary. There is no relative motion. So, and also I told you the spacecraft is having a coverage area of around 140 degrees. That means to cover that 360, in the diagram you are seeing very clearly with three such spacecrafts, we will be able to cover the entire world. Okay. So that is the big advantage of geostationary communication. Nowadays, the communications across the world are happening by using these geostationary satellites only. See, I have given in a pictorial form. If one sees from the North Pole two such spacecrafts, how it moves along with the Earth. So, Earth also moves and the satellite also moves along with that. That is, you are seeing there are two satellites in red color and then black in color. Okay, this is in the other diagram. What you are seeing is if I'm seeing through the equator. This is what you are seeing. That means when the satellite completes one revolution, Earth also completes one revolution, and the communication is keep happening 24/7. Okay, that is how it is. This diagram gives you an idea how the three satellites with that red dot, then black dot, and then green dot, how it is. It is almost covers that entire area. Okay, this what with some overlaps. That's what. So with the three spacecraft positioned 120-degree apart, it covers the entire globe with some overlap. Okay. This is how with the three spacecraft we can have that worldwide coverage. But the only issue is, though the world is being covered fully, each country wants to have their own systems. So that is why this orbit is being cluttered with so many number of satellites. With three such satellites alone we can manage. But thing is, yes, even in our classroom, maybe in your class, how many of you are there? Hello?
Yes, sir.
How many are there in your class?
In our classrooms, you mean? In our...
Yeah. General classrooms, not now.
We have more than 50, sir.
More than 50. But all the 50, do you communicate okay, closely? No. No, that's why. See, such a kind of in a classroom, there are 50 people. You yourself are not communicating very closely. How you expect the world will be going along with one such policy? So that is how with the three spacecraft, we can cover the entire world. But that is not the case. As on today, we are having thousands such spacecrafts, and India alone is having more than 20, around 28 satellites for this communication purposes. The idea is, it is not only the communications, it is used for so many different purposes. So that kind of payloads are being differently used. That is why that many number of spacecrafts are required by different people, because I need some satellite for monitoring the weather. Sorry. Some satellites I'm using it for mapping. Some satellites I'm using it for only for data transfer. So that is why as the requirement grows, the satellites which has been put into orbit also grows. So that is how you are having this many number of satellites in the geostationary orbit. But the basic requirement, rather, with the three such satellites, you can connect the entire world. That is the thing. That is the point I wanted to drive. Okay. Then what is that you are seeing in this diagram is, okay, a country like Japan or Korea, their landmass area is very small. So for that, a geostationary satellite power they need not be wasted. So what they do is, they launch a spacecraft with a very high antenna. That means that antenna size is around 30 meters. So that the power in which it is transmitting back to the earth is very high, and then the ground power receive systems, the power system to receive, they can have only a minimal power, so that they can have a better communications. So that kind of advantage is there with this kind of an orbit. That what they put is, These satellites are put in an highly elliptical orbits with the 36-meter antenna. India also, we have tried this for our mobile communication purposes. We have launched one of our satellite GSAT-6 with 8-meter antenna, and we have successfully deployed, and then we are using it, and we are also having plans to go for to increase it to that 32-meter antenna. Okay. Okay. Another one is that the Molniya orbit. Okay. Okay, I want to ask you one small question. I think someone can answer, because that gives me some feel and confidence. I think you people are seeing it. Okay, with that 3 satellites, I told that you can cover the entire globe. Do you all agree with me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Do you say that you are listening or you are answering?
Listening and answering, sir.
Very good. But can you have you seen that coverage diagram carefully?
Somewhat, sir.
Somewhat. Okay. Okay. Let me put you some small basic geometry. Okay. Okay. Is it possible for me in a sphere from the equator, when I am trying to see the Earth, is it possible for me to have to see both the North Pole and South Pole simultaneously?
No, sir.
No. Then how I can have a complete coverage with the 3 spacecraft the globe?
For North Pole and South Pole, we should use different satellites, I guess, sir.
Okay, very good, very good. You got the point. But okay, let me go back and then show you this diagram. I think this diagram now you see all people, then you will come to know there is some portion which is not covered. Okay, on the south as well as on the north. That means the coverage latitude is plus minus 70 degree only. That means the coverage is only 70 degree from the equator. That is north side 70 degree longitude, the latitude, south 70 degree latitude. But in some places like Russia, and then this some portions of Canada, and then Greenland, all are not possible to cover with the geostationary satellites. I think that gentleman, what he has told is, but that is why we need this type of satellite, because Russia, almost their land mass is being coming under that zone where it is not possible to have the coverage from geostationary satellite. So they devised a different set of orbit called Molniya. That is, that orbit is something like this. It goes round with 42,000 kilometers, and then it is having a period of 12 hours. And then it has the coverage to the ground. That is, that the area in which it is to be covered are almost 8 hours. So with 3 such satellites transferring one by one, so 24 hours with the 3 satellites, they can have the complete communication. And then, so that type of orbit is called Molniya orbit. This is used by Russia, and this satellite is having a period of 12 hours, and its orbit is something like 200 kilometers by 42,000 kilometers. And in that, around perigee, it is having a visibility of 8 hours. That means the satellite passes the 4 hours this portion, and for 8 hours it takes to this. So that is why when the satellite traverses this zone, that 8 hours, it is possible to have the communication, whereas in this period It will not have the coverage for Russia. That's what I'm telling. Then I think by this, with the 3 such satellites, it will be, the service will be provided, and that's how. This is one such satellite diagram I have just given you for the sake of understanding. Okay. Then the next portion is that frequency bands. There are different spacecrafts to start with. People have been using. So it was started with the L band. They are all with 1 to 2 gigahertz, mostly used by mobile satellite communications. Then they moved on to S band. It is also used, but deep space missions still we are using S band. And C band is used for fixed satellite systems. Then from C band, it is almost now getting saturated, and then we have moved to X band. And earlier, this X band was used by military and meteorological spacecraft, but slowly now they are also migrating it to Ku band. That means the bandwidth available to start with, it was only 1 gigahertz. Now we are having something like 25 to 30 gigahertz, whereas with the Ka band, we can even go up to 40 gigahertz. That means the bandwidth available for the use is keep increasing in many folds. So that is the advantage of going in for different frequency bands. Nowadays, almost all the satellites are having Ku band and Ka band. I think most of our satellites currently in use are all in these 2 bands, along with S band and C band also still we are using, because we need S band for wide area coverage. So that is why we are still using S band and C band together. Then the basic spacecraft communications elements, okay, when you wanted to see, you are seeing something in the background, something like one spacecraft is there, some antennas are there, some block diagrams are all there. So this is nothing but the kind of basic equipments what you need to have, okay? 2 stations on the Earth want to communicate through radio broadcast, but are too far away to use the conventional means. That's what I'm telling. That is, in that case, conventional means either you have to have the transmission towers or you have to lay the cables underneath the Earth, okay? But whereas satellite, it is not a problem. Whereas 2 stations can use a spacecraft as a relay station. That is what, if one transmitter tower to another transmitter, it gets and then it goes for the reception. Here what is happening, one fellow is transmitting to the spacecraft sends it back so that it is received by all. So that is how it is, the basic concepts. If you really would like to declassify this, one Earth station send a transmission to the spacecraft. This we can call it as an uplink. That is what you are seeing in this red color. You are seeing from this, it is being sent to the spacecraft. And the spacecraft sends it back to the other place. That is that signal. That is called a downlink. See, whatever that red you are seeing, it is received and transmitted back, but it is received by so many people. Similarly, from here it is getting transmitted and then it is read somewhere. So this is how the basic communication spacecrafts works. It is nothing but a relay tower, but it is kept at a very high altitude, and because of that, the coverage area becomes very wide. That is the big advantage of going for a spacecraft. This is how it is. The communication, it simply, if the signals are received and transmitted it back, it is called a passive reflector. But nowadays, what they do is, there is a low noise amplifying, and then they used to have a filter, and then they amplify the signal by using high power amplifiers, and then they downlink that, and that will be having a with higher EARP, it will be received by the respective stations or the coverage areas, so that with the lesser power they can receive the data clearly. This is the basic concepts, how the transmission is happening. I will not go too much into the electronics part of it, because that is not our domain. Then in 1960s, the spacecraft configuration was something like this only. To start with, it was spherical in shape. Then it was translated to cylinder mode. Then the cylinder size was keep increasing, and then our antennas are being modified. And then the payload weights are also, the spacecraft weight also has been keep going up, and its life also was going up from 100 kg. In 70s, in 60s, it was 100 kg, whereas in 70s, it was touching around 1,000 kgs. And then in 80s, it has already grown to something like 2,000 kg satellites. And then with higher power, and in 1980s only, we were having the deployable solar panels, so that the power generation is keep increased to order of kilowatts. Okay, whereas in the 90s, the growth was in leaps and bounds, and then we were having tens of kilowatts of power generation, and then the spacecraft weight also increased to 4,000 and odd, and then we were having the systems. Okay, then of course, this is that Thraya mobile satellites. I don't want to go. Whereas in 2000s, it has really advanced, and then we were having very high spacecraft weights of something like 5 ton to 10 tons, and then the power generation has increased to 20 kilowatts, and then all kinds of bands were used, but most of the spacecrafts are using nowadays Ku and Ka band. Okay. This is the advanced communication satellite, that ATS, which was used. Okay. Now let us see how India entered into the scenario, and then we were